Hail, Archangel Michael. Hail, Archangel Michael. Angels are mentioned 273 times in the Bible. It is said through a poll taken about 5 years ago that about 72% of those polled believed in angels. Those of us listening here is rather like singing to the choir, because most of us listening do believe in angels. But many in the world have never seen one or heard one, but they still believe in them because they are in the Bible. And if they're of the Christian faith, they have that belief. In volume 32, number 45, from Beloved Archangel Michael in 1989, this is given from our beloved Archangel Michael on the festival of Michaelmas, which is going to occur this week on September 29th, on Wednesday. Michaelmas is known as the Feast of the Saints Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, the Feast of the Archangels. In the beginning, it was noted as a feast of Archangel Michael. And in the Middle Ages, it was celebrated as a holy day of obligation. And it was traditionally abolished. The tradition was abolished in the 18th century. And it marked the beginning of autumn and the short days, and the counts had to be settled. All the harvests were brought in. There was a meaning to this holiday. It was like a Christmas. And you'll find it many places in Europe. You can find online. There are videos of festivals still held for Michaelmas. As I was going through this teaching, this particular pearl of wisdom given in 1989, it was done after the 12 labors of Hercules, which was a tremendous action of Achilles at that time to work on world planetary situations. And Michael came to congratulate everyone on the great work that had been done on the previous work in the sanctuary. And he came on this Michaelmas Day, 1989. And he gave a teaching within this pearl about holding fast and also about the healing light. And as we read in the scripture this morning about Daniel, Daniel was actually brought in from Israel. He was a captive of the Babylonians, and he and his friends. And we know a lot of those stories. Those Bible stories are very popular, of being in with the lions and being in the fiery furnace, his friends. And through it all, Daniel was one of the best examples in the Bible of the most extraordinary faith. And he also worked with the administration of his supposed enemy at the time. And Archangel Michael, because of Daniel's great faith, was able to appear and to help him and his friends. So it is a great testimony to the power of Archangel Michael when we ourselves align ourselves with the will of God, with the will of the Almighty, our mighty I Am presence, which is our portion of the presence of God. The word archangel occurs only supposedly in 2 verses in the Bible. We know that a lot of areas in the Bible have been removed, have been taken away. And in Thessalonians in 4:16, it says, "For the Lord himself will come down from heaven with a loud command, with the voice of the archangel, and with a trumpet call of God, and the dead in Christ will rise first." The other passage is in Jude, chapter 1, verse 9, which I taught from the last time I gave a sermon. But even the Archangel Michael, when he was disputing with the devil about the body of Moses, did not dare to bring a slanderous accusation against him, but said, "The Lord rebuke you." Michael is the only named archangel in scripture. But there are many names that are not saying angel in the Bible. And when I said 273 times that angels are mentioned in the Bible, there are other names that are given. And the word archangel comes from a Greek word, archangelos, meaning chief angel. And it's a compound word formed from archon, or chief ruler, or agulus, angel or messenger. So we know that when we give our Archangel Michael's rosary, or the rosary, we name what we call the orders of angels. These are celestial hierarchies. The angels actually are the lowest order of them. Even though they do great service to us, they are considered in the celestial hierarchy the lowest of the angels. So the early writers list 3 hierarchies, each containing 3 orders, delineating 9 types or classifications of angels or celestial beings. The first 3 are the highest order, are seraphim, cherubim, and thrones. And the second are dominations, principalities, and powers. And then the third is virtues, archangels, and angels. And we see in Colossians, where it is talking about in the Talmudic literature, they are conceived of as being composed of fire and water. Now, Shamuel, whose name means he who seeks God, is the archangel of the third, or the pink ray of love. And he identifies himself in a dictation which was given back in October of 1977 as God's pure love in winged manifestation. He is the angel who wrestled with Jacob and the angel who strengthened Jesus in Gethsemane when he was actually sweating blood. Archangel Shamuel and his divine complement, Archaea Charity, maintain an etheric retreat over St. Louis, Missouri. So we are going to mainly talk about Archangel Michael today, but you should know that all of the archangels are healing angels. So our invocation today was from a healing service. And I'm going to be giving and playing and reading an example of a young man during the course of this lesson today who had a testimony from beloved Archangel Michael. He didn't know about Archangel Michael when he was encountered by him, but you will learn of his story in just a moment. Now, this dictation starts with, "Hail, Excalibur! Hail, O living sword of eternal truth! Hail, thou scepter of the divine mother, thou defender of the woman and her seed! Hail, Excalibur! Hail, legions of light, and hail, keepers of the flame on earth!" Archangel Michael says, "My beloved hearts of light, I am gratified to tell you that there has not been a company of light bearers to so defend my sword and presence and flame in many a century. Therefore, I acclaim you who have kept the flame of the Archangel Michael tape, because there are recordings of all these decrees, as my own Chila's this Michaelmas. Therefore, hear me, ye slayers of the dragons of fear and doubt, ye who are worthy of the labors of Hercules and Amazonia. Hear, my beloved, it is a most unusual occasion when an archangel can claim unascended Chilas of the will of God for his own. Therefore, this is my Christmas in September. This is my victory. And this is my most glorious day, as each and every one of you is for me a Christmas present beneath my tree." I'm going to be taking excerpts from this dictation. A lot of the dictation has to do with the labors and what's going on there. So I will be taking out different portions. Archangel Michael goes on to say, "O beloved, I say to you that you have made astounding inroads into death and hell, whereby the demons do tremble before your spell of light. And therefore, behold my shield, where it is in the hand of a blue lightning angel that does now stand before you, each one. Receive it, beloved. You have sword in one hand, physical, and shield in the etheric octave. Therefore, with these two, invoke my armor and repeat the call day after day, day upon day. At this juncture, I'd like to talk a little bit about the sword, because within this dictation, Archangel Michael is blessing a ceremonial sword, which were produced by the Church Universal and Triumphant. And many of us in this activity have. And they're a non-sharpened sword, and we use them for our spiritual work and to cut us free and others very carefully, of course, with this instrument. And there is a teaching about using this sword, about using an unsharpened sword, that we can accomplish about 70% of the work that the messenger with a sharpened sword was using at the altar. And so it is very, very important that we understand this teaching about the sword of blue flame, that Archangel Michael, because he is putting his hand over our hands when we use this at our altars, and of course, very carefully. So it was Madame Blavatsky, Helena Blavatsky, in the book Isis Unveiled. She wrote about sword and stainless steel and using that sword and using that for protection, and talked about malevolent spirits and the sword. In the Isis book, Isis Unveiled, she wrote, some demons or elementary spirits are afraid of sword, knife, or anything sharp. In her teaching on this phenomenon, Blavatsky quotes from the Daemon, or the demon, by Psellus, Psellus. And he said, any hard substance striking them, the demons, can make them sensible to pain. And though their bodies be made neither of solid nor firm substance, they feel it the same. If you divide him in two, he will feel the pain as would any living man. One thing, however, distinguishes him from the living man, that when a man's limbs are once divided, their parts cannot be reunited very easily. But cut a demon in two, and you will see him immediately join himself back together. But every rent made in his body causes him pain nevertheless. That is why demons dread the point of a sword or any sharp weapon. Let those who want to see them flee, try the experiment. It's the end of that quote from Psellus, given from Helena Blavatsky and Isis Unveiled. So it is said that if you don't have one of the ceremonial swords, which we have on our altar, you can get a stainless steel knife of your choosing and use it very carefully at your own altars or with folks, and be very careful with it. And just so you're not using it for other purposes, it would be only for your altar work. So that is a whole other teaching, but Archangel Michael is addressing that in this dictation. And I thought you should have a little bit of background on what that is if you are not familiar with using the sword. It is very effective. And when you feel like you're out of sorts and you feel like your decrees aren't cutting through at your own altars, I find that when I'm leading services, and sometimes it's early in the morning, and I'm just trying to get myself into my body, I take out the sword and very slowly use that in front of me and behind me, to my left to right, above and below, and you can cut around below your feet. And very carefully, again, you can use that instrument. It has great results. Archangel Michael goes on to say in this dictation, therefore I say to you now, I come with my dispensation, and I am here to clear from you this night the burden and the weight of all condemnation upon you, of all criticism, of all judgment, of all projection of scandal, and the attempt of the sinister force through their tools and embodiment to deny and to destroy the most noble of souls of light. I say to one and all, shed this. We, the hosts of light, condemn none, nor those who have made mistakes, nor those who have not. Therefore, let my sons and daughters, who are the sons and daughters of Alpha, receive this touch of the sword Excalibur, and know that this condemnation is not deserved by any. We have come to perform this labor of Hercules ourselves. As I said, the congregation had been working on the 12 labors of Hercules. Archangel Michael says, we, the hosts of the Lord, pull the ripcord this night, and we enter the fight with you. For you steadfast ones who have not feared to labor and to labor and to labor, you have known great victories unprecedented. He mentions, beloved ones, a tribute to Rheolite and his legions of fearlessness flame, who have clothed you in that ruby ray, not only for the saving of the church and the messenger, but also to fortify you personally and to cast out all of your doubts and fears. Going on about the sword, Archangel Michael said, blessed ones, remember to wield the sword that is now in your hand. And if you have a sword at home as you're listening, you may take it and ask for Archangel Michael to superimpose his hand over yours. For I, Archangel Michael, do dedicate this ceremonial sword this night that is upon this altar. And as I hold it in my hand, and as you see it is marked with my name, understand that when you wield it, my hand is placed over your own, and my electronic presence is with you. And each and every sword is dedicated. May you use them and remember that you accomplish 70% of that which the mother of the flame accomplishes with my sharpened sword. He says, the sword unused, beloved ones, is an opportunity lost. Therefore, I trust that you will know that the more you wield the sword, the more those fallen ones will take any opportunity at any hour of the day or night to approach, to outsmart you. And therefore, it is indeed a most instructive chess game that we of the legions of the first ray do play daily in action across the margin of the world. So you know, when you step up your game, you decide that you're going to give more decrees, you're going to have more of a decree momentum or start a novena. You know that everything in the world comes up against you. Something comes up to try to stop you from keeping on to keeping on. So you ask Archangel Michael, and he says, I am Archangel Michael, and I come with legions of light, 10 times the number that I have come with on any other occasion. For beloved, you have earned it, and you must know that when you have earned it, and you must know when you must work again harder to earn the next level of grace. He says the challenge, beloved, is to defeat the Luciferian ones who enter on the 12 o'clock line, who have seized that power from you and who have used it literally to control the world and to build such arsenals of armaments as to defy all reason and to strike terror to the hearts of many. Terror so great that they will not look or listen, but will ridicule and condemn those who do not fear to face the possibility of war, even as they do not fear to face the great probability of peace and an age of peace and an age of universal enlightenment and an age of freedom, because a people have sought their God and determined to defend that freedom, to defend that peace, to defend that enlightenment. We had a vigil yesterday on communism. There was many hours, and we are very grateful for those who led and participated in this. And part of this message today is to address that very situation. At the time when this dictation was given, many of us were working on building fallout shelters to go because we were told by the masters to be prepared for possible nuclear war from the Soviet Union at the time. There was a lot of press on this. A lot of people left the organization after it because there was a lot of negative press. And we know that the prayer momentums and all of that we did at that time has given us time and space to work out an opportunity. And many didn't believe that after it was all said and done. And those of you who are through it, you have survived and you are here. And it separated to me the chaff from the wheat. And so it's addressing the great pressure that was put upon the Chelas at the time. And even now we have different groups going on, but we know that that period of time was particularly trying. And Archangel Michael is addressing this. So he says at this time, do not be weary, but pace yourselves and strengthen yourselves and see that you call for a stopover at my retreat at Banff nightly on your way to the Royal Teton retreat at the Grand Teton, or the retreats of the Chohans, to be recharged with light. And he said to see that you know the meaning of that moment in the day when you withdraw all energy from the fray and you come to the altar of God you have erected where you are, or to this altar, the court of King Arthur at that time, this altar of the Holy Grail, where the flame of the Ark of the Covenant is guarded by cherubim. And you let pass into the flame every worry and burden, and you kneel and you say your prayers and you invoke the light of the Holy of Holies, and you affirm the name of God, and you are one-pointed, and your attention is upon your I am presence, and you see me standing before you, beloved, and I shall anoint you again and again and renew your forces. Archangel Michael will always be with you, and we will see in just a few moments the testimony of this young man I spoke of, to show a very vivid example of Archangel Michael's intercession. Blessed ones, the key to the victory is to have an interval in each 24-hour cycle where you break the spell of doom and gloom projected from the astral plane and the untransmuted astral body, and you break the spell of the problems of the entire astral circle. Let it be broken, beloved. Take the trouble to pass by the altar. Take the trouble to stand before this I am presence and to bow to the Mother of the world in the persons of Mother Mary and Kuan Yin, who are on this altar he speaks of, and all who so nobly intercede for you in their divine office of the feminine ray. You break the spell of the seed of the wicked one, yet they desire, beloved, to keep you going round and round and round on a treadmill in the 24-hour cycles until the momentums of a world chaos wind around you tighter and tighter and tighter, and though you were caught in the spell of their own maypole dance, which they would dance around you until you now completely bound to the center pole of their manipulation. Does it feel like that sometimes in this world? This is 32 years ago. We have a momentum of things happening in this nation right now, and that is why we had this vigil. We are addressing the forces that may be different, but are the same forces. And now they have made their way and made inroads into the United States of America. We see that happening. We are doing a karmic board novena. This week will be 1 year. We have addressed this situation with different invocations, different preambles, changing according to the situation. And we can see as we look through each preamble that we can tick things off as sometimes they are addressed and sometimes addressed straight on. So we know if we keep these calls up and we keep the same call up and over, and that's what Archangel Michael is saying. It is the steadfastness, the immovability, the unshakability of the archangels that we need in this hour. And whatever situations we have in our lives and our own health, we have this whole other pandemic situation, the locking down of people, the closing of businesses, economic collapses. All of this has affected the very physical being of each and every one of us in some way or shape or form. Some people have contracted this virus. Some people have been just afraid to do anything. So all of this is another war that we have to face and conquer. Archangel Michael says, blessed ones, we deal with realities, we deal with challenges, we deal with the attempts of the fallen ones to ensnare our best servants in those acts, those schemes, those manifestations that would surely bring upon them and upon their house that divine justice. But why do we live, beloved? We live to see each and every one of you attain resolution by divine justice. We have but one goal in sight for you. It is the victory of the ascension. Therefore, he says, whatever it takes, we will bow to the law at that level and assist you to deal with that karma. And you must understand that all things must come to resolution, and there cannot be transmutation without the fulfilling of the law of divine justice. At this point, I would like to read to you about the young man who was encountered by our beloved Archangel Michael, though he knew it not at the time of the encounter who this being was. So I am going to read the transcript that I took from part of the video. This young man is from Australia, and his occurrence happened in 2014. And so he says, and then we will be playing right after I am done. I'll cue you, Frank, to play the young man's words, his own words, to finish the story. In 2014, a 25-year-old man from Australia named Chris Riley had a visitation from Archangel Michael. He was, in his own words, in a really bad way, very lost individual, had no faith. He didn't think there was any purpose to the world. He was very angry, and he'd been regularly using ice or methamphetamine. He said he did not enjoy his birthdays because they were reminders of another year of the same old thing. Not long ago, after his 25th birthday, he had a scary incident one night, he said, and while he was high for probably, he said, about 2 to 3 days. At that time, he was smoking meth through a pipe. It was so scary, he said, he was convinced, he was going to die, possibly like a near-death experience. Nothing that bad physically happened, but in his mind, he was convinced he was going to die. He had a mental breakdown due to this, but had a loving family and friends and supportive family that helped him through. But on that one night of that scary incident, and this is the key, his brother's girlfriend prayed a prayer to Archangel Michael for him. But Chris didn't know at the time about the prayer. He'd been trying to get to sleep that night, but he was in such a mental state of anguish. It was very difficult, but he did manage to finally fall asleep. The next day, he did wake up, and he was sitting on the edge of his bed. He was staring at the wall. He was fully conscious. He was wide awake, but in a completely lost state. He said he could not even attach to the person he was before. He felt completely lost. He had nothing, no personality. He couldn't think. He was in a lost state in his bedroom, completely alone. And as he sat there staring at the wall, he said, I felt this hand touch my left shoulder. He felt immediate fear as he knew he was alone. He was instantly panicked and shocked. He then heard a voice say, lay, child, everything's okay. You've got nothing to worry about. I'm here to help you. He said the first thing he thought, well, I'm hearing voices. You're definitely going to the mental institution now. And then he heard the voice again, lay, child. Everything's okay. You've got nothing to worry about. I'm here to help you. So he wondered what that meant. So he did lay on his side to help him feel better. And as he did, he felt the rush of the most euphoric, blissful, heavenly love he said I could possibly describe to anybody. It was like a mother who had just given birth to a newborn child. The way she would look at her, times 10 million. It was your birthday. It was Christmas. It was New Year's, seeing your best friend after 10 years of them being away. It was just every good, joyous, blissful, happy, ecstatic feeling I could possibly describe, all balled into one. And when he touched me, And this feeling just went through my whole being. And I was vibrating, just the highest amount of love I could possibly imagine. And I felt like I was home. And I felt like that's where I came from. And I had forgotten about it. I had forgotten what it felt like. And oh my God, it felt amazing. He said, I've done drugs before in the past and nothing compares. And now I understand why they call it the Most High, meaning the Most High God. It was amazing. As that happened and that feeling rushed through my whole body, my eyesight went from my eyes looking at the wall lying on my side to being in the top right-hand corner of my bedroom, looking down at myself on the bed. And I was on my side, looking at the wall. He was watching himself. And behind me, there was an angel. And now we'll hear Chris Riley's own words of the rest of the story.
He was about 10 feet tall, whose wings stretched across my bedroom. He had a Roman-style golden chest plate on. He had long, short, long, blondish hair. He had a Norwedic-looking face. Norwegian. I make a joke that he kind of looked like Chris Hemsworth a little bit. He had the Roman centurion-style skirt on with the slits in it, the really old-school sandals with the rope that went right up the feet. I could see him clear as day. He shined a blue and white light. He was very beautiful, and the feeling I got from him was that he was my best friend. I'd kind of forgotten about him. I felt bad about that, but it felt so good at the same time to see him again. I was just like, oh, you again. And yeah, I could see him there clear as day. And then he went on to tell me and show me a few things. He told me that I was very lost, that I had nothing to worry about, and that everything was okay, and that he was always watching me from the day I was born to the day I will die. He will always be watching me. But I have nothing to worry about. He showed me segments of my life where things went wrong. He took me back to when I was in primary school as a young kid. He showed me certain little events, not even that bad things really, but like just small events that changed my perception of myself. And there was one specific one where he took me back and he's like, do you remember how you felt before that happened? I was like, yep, I felt like me. I felt like how I was supposed to feel, a child of God. And he's like, do you remember when that happened? I was like, I do remember when that happened. He's like, do you remember what it felt like? And I was like, oh, I could feel it. And I was like, yeah, I didn't like that. But do you remember how you felt afterward? And I specifically just remember thinking, ashamed to be myself. That's how I felt, ashamed to be myself. And he kind of showed me how that shaped me. That event really shaped who I was. I was then, from that point onward, I was ashamed to be myself. When I went into situations, I was ashamed. Because I was scared that people wouldn't like me for who I was. And I could see how that one small event molded a whole bunch of events later in my life, where I just wanted to be accepted by people. And I did stupid things because of it, and it put me down a really, really dark path. Yeah. So yeah, he showed me segments of my life where I went wrong, or I made certain choices. Showed me from when I was a child up to about high school, into high school, out of high school, up to making certain decisions with drugs and stuff. But then he said, can you see how all that happened so you could be here with me now? I was like, yep. In that state of love, I could just understand how everything worked. I was like, yep, I can understand that. He's like, yeah, so everything happens for a reason. He went on to repeat that a few times. Everything happens for a reason. There's a purpose to everything. I was like, okay. And then he went on to show me what what I kind of take now is the battle versus good versus evil. It went to a vision of a field, a huge field, like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and thousands of hectares wide and long. And on our side, it was completely blue, and it was just this blue misty fog that went on for a really, really long time. And as it went on and on and on and on, it reached a wall, and it started climbing up the wall, and it was all blue on our side. And as it got to the very, very top of the wall and like started to peek over, it changed colour to red, and it dropped red down the wall on the other side, and then it just went red for eternity that way. And I could clearly see it, and I was like, okay, what's this? And you're like, this is the battle of good versus evil. You'd forgotten what side you were on, and now you've been reminded, you know what side you're on. You're on my side, and you just forgot who you were. You were just a bit lost. And I had this overwhelming feeling of, let me up, I just want to fight, I want to get back in the battle. He said, no, you got to stay down, you got to recover, you got to rest. I was like, okay, cool. And yeah, he then went on to tell me, he mentioned that I was Saint Christopher at one point. He goes, you are Saint Christopher. I don't know if I'm supposed to take that as I'm the reincarnation of Saint Christopher, or just because my name is Christopher Raleigh, that I'm a saint, maybe saved by grace or something along those lines. But yeah, so toward the end of it, he just said, you've got nothing to worry about, everything's okay, I'll always be watching you, I'll always be watching you, everything's fine, have faith. And yeah, as he said that, he just kind of slowly faded out, and I was left sitting there on the end of my bed, staring at the wall, in the state of what just happened. At no point during it did he mention his name, at no point did I ask him his name. It was so overwhelming and new to anything I'd experienced in my whole entire life. I really didn't know how to take it for a little bit. I didn't tell anybody for about a week or two because I was afraid they were going to say I'd lost my mind and send me to a hospital or something like that. So the first person I told was my older brother, and I went up and I was like, I got something to tell you. Had this experience. I told him everything, and he just kind of looked at me and he's like, wow. He's like, have you ever heard of Archangel Michael? I was like, nope, I don't remember that name, I don't recall that anywhere. He's like, you sure? I was like, not that I can remember. And then he's like, go to Google and type in Archangel Michael. And I went to Google and I typed it in, and I just started crying my eyes out. The description of how he looked, the description of him saving people and whatnot, and yeah, I just cried my eyes out in like joy and happiness, I guess. And that was my experience. And ever since then, I've kind of turned my life around for the better. I was completely healed of any desire for drugs after that point. A lot of things changed in my life, a lot of things. I've helped a lot of friends come to the faith, or come to a faith. Yeah, so that's my experience. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for listening.
Praise God for Archangel Michael and all of the legions of blue lightning. It's a very powerful testimony. And so this shows somehow the tenderness and the love of Archangel Michael, which I found interesting because we see Archangel Michael as the blue flame and power and battles and swords. And we don't often think of him as this gentle, patient angel. Of course he is, but that's not how we always picture him. And I was looking in the book of Enoch, and of course, Michael is mentioned, as many of the angels are mentioned, in chapter 20, verse 5. Michael, one of the holy angels who presiding over human virtue commands the nations. And also in chapter 40, verse 8 of the book of Enoch. After this, I besought the angel of peace who proceeded with me to explain all that was concealed. I said to him, Who are those whom I have seen on the four sides and whose words I have heard and written down? He replied, the first is the merciful, the patient, the holy Michael. That's from the book of Enoch. So we see the gentle archangel and the battle Archangel Michael fights with us. Going back to this dictation, Archangel Michael says, another excerpt, know then, beloved, that when this flame is as bright as it is, you have achieved that brightness by the multiplication factor of your own heart fire. Then that which assails the flame and the flame bearer is the very evil incarnate of death and hell that comes even from other systems of worlds, comes by spacecraft, comes by any means, but come it does and come it shall. As Jesus said, woe unto the world because of offenses, for it must needs be that offenses come, but woe to that man by whom the offense cometh. Goes on to say, another excerpt from this dictation, and we have known, beloved, that this could not be accomplished until such as you might be an embodiment. And I say not you particularly, but such as you, those like you, those who have become fed up with our human creation after many long centuries, and will be the embodiment of God upon earth, truly the embodiment of Archangel Michael. So just a little side note on Chris Riley. He's now about 32 years old, and he's comes out with some other videos, and he's working for spiritual work, and he puts those videos on YouTube. He doesn't do a great deal of them, but he talks about his journey of teaching people about Archangel Michael and spiritual prayer. And so it's interesting. He said that he had forgotten. It was a friend that he had forgotten, but he did recognize Archangel Michael because Archangel Michael said he was always with him. Our angels are right here with us all the time. Sometimes we just feel them. Sometimes we are not paying attention to them at all. Sometimes we actually can see them, or we see, sometimes it said there were fire and water. Sometimes it's a mist. I felt at a time when I was having kind of a low point in my late teens, early 20s. I was in my bedroom. I was lying in the bed. I was reading. I turned off the light and I just sat there and I was crying. I was quite upset. And before me at the foot of my bed in the darkness, kind of feeling I wasn't taking drugs or anything, just things that were happening before I got into the teachings. And at the foot of my bed, there was something like a sizzling white light of a form at the base at the foot of my bed. And I'd been crying, so I thought I had to rub my eyes and kind of look down and say, am I really seeing this? It's like Chris saying, well, I'm hearing voices. You know, at first you really don't believe what you're seeing or hearing. And indeed, it was, the image was there, the sizzling, that's what I call it, sizzling white light, or like a vapor. I thought, was it a ghost? But it didn't feel like that. I wasn't afraid. I was just kind of in awe. It's like when you see something and it's like a bubble and you don't want the bubble to burst. So you don't move. You're just kind of motionless. And that was the feeling at that time, that everything will be okay. You will be okay. I am with you. I didn't know if it was Jesus. I really didn't study angels that much. I brought up in a Lutheran church. So that was a profound experience, and I never forgot it. I don't know who it was, but it was a presence there. And so Archangel Michael says in this dictation, blessed hearts, I would raise you to my level. And to do this, I would descend to your level. Remember, the angels are the lowest, not that by any, doesn't take away any importance of their jobs, but they come down to the terra level, down to us, the lowest level, and help us. That's their jobs. They get down and dirty into the earth, the terra firma, and help us. That's their job. and that I would descend to your level, he says, and we meet in the heart of the Divine Mother. We meet in the heart of the Christ. Therefore, I say to you, no matter what the task, the challenge, the assignment, do not walk away from it until you have thoroughly attained your victory, thoroughly attained it. I say, get the victory over every aspect of the challenge that does bring out the worst in you. And when the worst is brought out, beloved, there is no more of the worst to bring out. And therefore, the next challenge and the next and the next and the next can only bring out the best in you. He said, it is necessary to sense your freedom and what the true and profound meaning of the gift of mercy is, of forgiveness, of absolution. Think of this young Chris. I bet he felt like, I've done all these drugs, I've done all these things. How many people feel like that? How many people feel like I have done so many bad things? There's no way I could ever turn my life around. There are so many souls in the streets of our inner cities, of our small towns, kids on drugs, kids lost, families broken apart. They need Archangel Michael. They need the archangels. And at this juncture, I'd like to remind you that we have a St. Michael mission through our Spiritual Awareness Fellowship organization. It was a profound impetus for me to produce a St. Michael prayer card back in 2016, end of 2015. It was actually produced in 2016. It's on our website. You can order them. We're going to get a new order of them if you'd like to order them. This card has the simple prayer that came about when Andrew Blumenschein was doing our vigils. Archangel Michael, protect me. Archangel Michael, seal me. Archangel Michael, stand where I am. And I felt compelled to do that card at the time because the police departments, our first responders, were getting a really hard time of it in the press, in the news, you know, that some police officers, some people didn't do their jobs exactly the way they should, and they were putting down all of them. And I felt like these are the defenders. These are the patron saint of the police force is Archangel Michael. And they needed our protection because it seemed like we see today that this is what's happening. 5 years later, we have the same situation going on. We wonder where the law and order, because these are orders of angels, orders of celestial hierarchies. And there is order in the universe because God created it like that, not in chaos, not in anarchy. And we are praying for the protection and the return of the order of the archangels of the celestial hierarchy. So don't forget, you can look on our website, contact us, write to us, order a couple of cards, figure out where your police departments are in your towns, in your cities, and take as many as you need and let us know and we'll get them to you. We need to let those police officers, law enforcement, EMTs, all of them that are in the line of duty, military men and women, wherever you see them, give them a card and let them know God bless you for your service. These are the frontline workers of Archangel Michael on this planet. In lieu of time, I'm going to say just one more excerpt here, and then we're going on to the calls from the end of this dictation. We're going to give those together. Archangel Michael says, know this, beloved. We would see you joyous in the midst of adversity and unafraid to face today the weaknesses in character and mind and presence. For those chinks in the armor could later on down the line be your undoing. But this day you have the opportunity to overcome. Therefore, let the era of denial be past and let the truth be faced by you and be humble, beloved, for it is only by the mighty intercession of the great white brotherhood that many of you are here this night. We know that. Many of you are sponsored by more than one ascended master or angel because it is at that moment of the rising or the setting that the sun shines brightest. And in that piercing light of that sun, beloved, you know that the extraordinary manifestation of God has delivered you to fill in the gaps, fill in the holes, fill in the discrepancies, fill in the absences, and to do it one by one, systematically. We are the builders. We are the architects. We are the engineers. We are the mind of God in manifestation where you are. And we are absolutely determined that you will pass your tests of these 12 years. That was from 1990 to 2001. mitigating world karma by perpetual prayer in the violet flame and bringing to judgment the seed of the wicked one. That juncture, one more thing I would like to add is this Pope's prayer that we give from our alternate preamble and our Archangel Michael's rosary. Just a little quick history on that prayer. You know, that prayer was given to find this here. That prayer was given to a Pope Leo back in 1884. And at the end of the 19th century, Pope Leo XIII added this prayer to St. Michael to the prayers recited after low masses and so-called the Leonine prayers after his name. This custom held until 1964 when the Leonine prayers were suppressed at the Second Vatican Council. And suppressed means suppressed. So that means they were not to be used. And it says that at that time, so what has happened since they have suppressed the giving of the Pope's prayer? Saint Michael, the Archangel, defend us in Armageddon. We have it a little bit changed and different from the original. It says this simple prayer has now made a resurgence in light of what's happening in the world. When the priest ends the Mass, he officially gives Ita Missa Est, go forth, the Mass is ended. The priest's veneration of the altar, he kisses the altar, and then the congregation is allowed to stay and give their personal prayers. Well, just here in Chicago, the bishop supposedly told the priests that they were not allowed to lead this Pope's prayer out loud with the congregation. They'd have to do that alone at home. And one of the priests told the congregation that. And then the bishop said that's not what he said, but there's some reason why they don't want this prayer to be given in unison as a decree. We know it's much more powerful when people give it together. So reciting the prayer to St. Michael in this article I was reading seems to be an organic development that is in accord with the tradition of the Catholic Church, of course, but reciting the prayer to St. Michael after Mass is rapidly growing in popularity in the Catholic Church again. It's being requested many among the laity and even mandated by some bishops. And so there is a lot of drama in the Catholic Church. Of course, there's been sexual misconduct, pedophilia, you know, all the child trafficking that's happening, all of the drugs, the sex, and all of the situations in our schools and teaching our children things they shouldn't know. And you can see what's happened since that 1964. You could just think about that simple prayer that was taken out of after the lower Mass. So we can give that prayer together. We gave it during our prayer today. And it is just a direct correlation. Of course, no one can say exactly why the things are happening the way they are, but all seems to point to the absence of prayer, that they used to give a simple prayer in the public schools. The Catholic Church took this prayer out, all the Leonine prayers. There's other prayers that he gave. There's a direct correlation there. Archangel Michael, at the end of this dictation, he says, remember every line that is gained. He means the cosmic clock. He says, every victory won, every lesson learned, that is what the path of the Great White Brotherhood is all about. This is the priority of your father, Alpha, who wants you home. And that's what Chris said in the video. He said he felt like he was home. Your father and your mother want you home, beloved. Know that you are loved and loved and loved in the courts of heaven. And therefore separate yourselves from the antipathies of human parents, human associations that have failed you, disappointed you, betrayed you. Separate yourself from that psychological conditioning of the fallen ones that has sought to make you the victim of the doom and gloom of an ancient karma. And some of you may be scraping the bottom of the barrel of your karma even now. You're at the worst of it, beloved, and you will soon see the light, just as Chris saw the light. Whatever it is, our God is able, and we stand with you. Therefore, change your perspective, says Archangel Michael. Change your vision and look at these challenges as the means to your victory, and trust your God that those things that come upon you are surely for the sharpening of your swords and the testing of your mettle, mettle, which means spirit, strength, vigor, valor, courage, substance, testing your mettle. And so let us take out our bulletins and give with Archangel Michael these affirmations he gave within this dictation. And he says to greet them because they have purpose. Greet them, the archangels. Greet every challenge with the archangels. Together, this challenge is upon me this day. For this my beloved Father Alpha, this my beloved Mother Omega, has sent to me for my swift growth and liberation from all toil of karma of this world. I accept the challenge in the name of Archangel Michael. I accept the challenge in the name of Archangel Michael. I accept the challenge in the name of Archangel Michael. And I defeat the adversary of my Christhood in the name of Archangel Michael. And I defeat the adversary of my Christhood in the name of Archangel Michael. And I defeat the adversary of my Christhood in the name of Archangel Michael. And I defeat the adversary of my Christhood in the name of Archangel Michael. Amen. And Archangel Michael says, therefore, beloved, do not crouch and pull your tatters about you when facing the challenges of the fallen ones, but step forth in my armor, bear my sword and shield if you will. In fact, be my armor bearer if you can. Thus, beloved, I seal you in the greatest love that the world has ever known, the love of our Father, Mother, God, the love of our hearts as one. This love, beloved, shall conquer all. In the name of my son, Micah, therefore, remember the banner of unity. For all your strength surely is in your union with your mighty I am presence, with your holy Christ self, and on that basis, with one another.